Hello out to all you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear listening into another What If discussion from me. And I'm going to be covering Battletoads 2020, which was an abomination to that series of games. And I just could not let it slide and not say anything about it. I grew up with Battletoads. I played the NES original, the remake of that game on the Sega Genesis. I played Battletoads and Battle Maniacs on the Super Nintendo. I've even played the arcade Battletoads game and Battletoads and Double Dragon. And Microsoft, how did y'all let this happen? How did y'all turn the Battletoads into a Saturday morning cartoon that's not even actually funny? There are so many missteps with this game, it's ridiculous. And I was looking forward to it. I mean, the art style definitely put me off. I'm not even gonna lie, because the art style put me off, not because the art is bad or because it looks horrible or anything like that. It doesn't suit the Battletoads. They were never the kitty cartoon characters. That's not how they were. That's never what they were about. That's never what they've been. So you, in essence, took the essence out of the characters when you did that. Zitz, Rash, Pimple, the Dark Queen, you took the essence out of those characters when you guys did that to them. And I don't know why you would. I don't know if maybe there were some check boxes that you felt that you need to hit. But the problem is, when you hit those check boxes, you crushed everything that made Battletoads great. You crushed everything that made Battletoads what it was. You destroyed what made people want it in the first place. Now, I'm going to talk about the positives and then what would be changed if I was the one in charge of the decision making for this game. The positives for this game, the combo system. That combo system works very well. It's great for a beat 'em up. I'm not going to lie on that. The combo system is awesome. Again, the art style is good and the animation is great. Just doesn't work for Battletoads. The soundtrack is also pretty decent, but I'm not going to say it's horrible or whatever. It's a decent soundtrack. Not the best I've heard for a beat 'em up or for Battletoads in general, but still pretty good. Those are the positives. Now, the things that would change. The story. The story is blatantly stupid. I'm not even going to lie. The story is stupid. To the point where I don't want to play the game again. It's just so dumb. You turn Zitz into this egomaniac who's a complete buffoon. Rash, I can kind of understand where his personality comes from because he does look like the type that's just full of himself. But I don't think Rash was dumb like they portrayed him to be. Like he was like brainlessly dumb. Pimple was probably about the only personality type I could stand in that game, and that was because he's chilled and laid back. But I think I could kind of see that being how the original Pimple was in his downtime. But when it comes to battle, Pimple is a bruiser. He's a brawler. Like he's the tough guy. The Dark Queen was intelligent, powerful, and sexy all at once for a video game character. I don't know why in the world they wiped all that away from her. It makes no sense to me. Now, I do like, and spoilers, I do like that in the game that that the Toads do team up with the Dark Queen because there is a stronger foe out there. I just don't like the reasoning behind it. Because, okay, Rash comes up with this idea that the Toads need to be famous and finding ways to make them famous. That was dumb. They could have completely done without that. Let's have, you know, maybe just maybe the Toads at some point were frozen in time, or something happened that the Dark Queen did that made them jump 100, couple thousand years into the future, where they had a legacy that was forgotten for saving the universe, something like that. But not, oh well, we're not famous anymore for antics that were supposedly fake. Like the whole story of this kind of just wipes all the other games out and trumps them off up to be fake. Like they didn't actually happen. So your first step into the game is to finding out and realizing that the games that you did play actually didn't happen, even though all of the characters exist. There's a bit of a contrivancy here. Now, we can maybe I would say just jump 100 years into the future, and maybe not that the Battletoads legacy was forgotten, but that time skip sent them far enough into the future where the plans that the Dark Queen had laid out took fruition, but she herself was also time displaced. So someone else has taken over in her stead and taken over her army to basically rule over the universe, galaxy, wherever. We can do that. Say they were having a final battle, and that could have been the first stage of the game. That there was a final battle between the Toads and the Dark Queen, and some whatever magic she used in order to try to save herself, time displaced them and put them into the future, and it separated her from the Toads. I think that's a simple enough concept to go with where you don't have to try to erase the events of the previous games. You can keep them all intact. And in this situation, there are statues, maybe even monuments of the Toads that are falling apart, crumbling in different backgrounds. And like, make it dystopian. Make it a highly dystopian world that the Toads are in. Like, because there was no prosperity, because essentially the Toads lost. Even though they didn't die, they were just time displaced, but it was thought that they were dead. They just disappeared. Them and the Dark Queen. And what people know of the Toads, they say, oh, well, they died in their final confrontation with the Dark Queen. And we know nothing of what happened, but the underling that was right under her, the one that was right under her, took over. And he was a far more ruthless and vicious ruler than what she was. Not because he was more powerful than her, but simply because he had a fear of having everything taken from his grasp now that he was in power. So any sort of, missing the word here, any sort of discourse against him was quickly squashed, put down to rest immediately. He was like, no, we're not having any of this. If you're not with me, you're against me. And if you're against me, you're dead. Now, there are minor resistance forces and things like that, but they just don't have the power to take down this new threat. And the Toads, on their first romp through whatever this dystopian society that they fell into, they're trying to take back what happened. They're trying to fix what happened and see if they can go back to the past and undo the mess that happened. But they can't do that without the Dark Queen. And they know if they've been time displaced, maybe she has too. They didn't all come out together, so she had to be somewhere separate of them. And you could spend the time having the Toads build up their abilities. You could still have the same combo system and ability system that you have in Battletoads 2020 because that worked. I would change the art style more to make it more aligned with the original Battletoads games, but do a cel-shaded look instead, so the characters still retain their original look and personalities, and they still have all of their abilities, but also try to make the art look similar to how Rash ended up looking in Killer Instinct. Make them look very similar to that and base the designs of the Toads off of that. Not a Saturday morning cartoon. Again, they were never that. The Battletoads games have also always kind of bounced around in genres because you have platforming sections that are separate from the beat 'em up sections. Then you'd have puzzle sections somewhat and raceway type sections, and all that stuff could be blended in. So to like stick with the history of Battletoads, where the game bounces around through different genres, but it's still at its core a major beat 'em up. So we had the Toads searching for the Dark Queen. They come upon her, and everybody fights each other. They fight, and then the current big bad of the story finds his way and swoops in and tries to take them all out. Instead of killing them, though, he ends up just basically knocking them away from where they were. Like, highly. Well, I'm not saying knock them away, but saying, like, did something that knocked them all out and imprisoned them. And the Toads and the Dark Queen come to the conclusion that they have to work together in order to take this guy down and get themselves back to where they belong. Because the Dark Queen, yeah, she still sees the Toads as enemies. She still wants to fight them. She still wants to take them out because they are a hindrance to her. But at this point in time, the only way that they're going to get back to where they were when they were time displaced is to get to take this dude down and get the equipment he has so it can amplify her power so that they can possibly get themselves back to where they were before. And at that point, then Dark Queen becomes a playable character. She could be a sorceress of sorts as well as a close range fighter, something that the Toads don't do, which would make her unique to their playstyle. And on top of that, she could still look like she did before. She can still be badass. She can still command a lot of respect. And she can still be very intelligent and cunning and quick-witted. Again, they didn't have to take those things from that character and dilute her down into a puddle of what she was. I understand, like, there are tropes that people try to avoid, but there's also layers to characters, and when you remove the layers to those characters, they become flat. And you don't want them to be flat characters. You want them to have essence. You want them to have ideas. You want them to have a spirit, so to speak. And I think that that's the biggest problem with the Battletoads 2020 is that it took the soul out of what made them great. It took the soul out of what made people like them. So that's the hard part there, is to think about that. Now, again, I'd keep in the levels that were like, again, like the vehicle levels. Those were good. Keep those. Maybe make them a little bit more difficult, whereas you don't just smash through walls and it swaps to a different Toad. Or maybe not. No. For this generation, you can keep that. But I think that a perfect run should be like, should give you some sort of bonus. Like me with I think it's the fifth level of Battletoads Battle Maniacs. I learned to perfect that damn level on those hover bikes. I learned to perfect that level. Like, so I think having that be an option to have people learn to perfect those types of levels, or even make a mini game out of it that you can play separately of it, would be cool. And they could still do the mini game stuff, but just change what the mini games were. Because the stuff that they had going on made no sense. And it's like they treated the Battletoads like retired actors. Like, people, they just lost their relevance. Where they could have made an adventure around these characters that would have been far more intriguing and entertaining, and could have been a hell of a lot more fun. Like, and also, your hard mode is not actually hard. All it is the enemies take tons more damage to beat, and you take far less damage in order to be defeated. It's really not interesting. The AI of the enemies doesn't change from normal to hard. It's the same AI. It's legitimately the same AI. Like, and that's boring. It's not like with games like Streets of Rage where harder difficulties, the mooks actually seem smarter. Their tactics to take you down actually seem smarter. In this situation, the game's tactics are the same. You just don't last as long based on an arbitrary change. Like I prefer that the enemies seem like they're smarter when they fight you than if they just become dumb Juggernaut. And for everybody that knows, yes, Juggernaut's not the brightest character in Marvel Comics, but he's not exactly an idiot. In this case, that's what these characters are. They're just like Juggernaut, but stupid. And I was looking forward to this game when it came out, and I was like, okay, cool. Battletoads is out. It may not look like what I want it to look like, but I'm gonna give it a shot anyway because I'm a fan of the series, and I was highly disappointed. And I know I'm not the only one that was highly disappointed. But the making it comedic for the sake of comedy really destroyed what Battletoads was, and that put a permanent mark on the history of the series, which, yeah, sure, has had its ups and downs, but it was never a down that was that bad. The down was never as bad as the last Battletoads game. No, not ever, not at any point. And it just, to me, that's like the people that were making the game didn't know what they had in their hands, or they didn't know how to appreciate what they had in their hands and use it properly. So, and then they basically just killed what made it great. What other changes could I have made? I think keeping the three player multiplayer is a smart idea. Because even including the Dark Queen as a playable character, she wouldn't be there from the start. So I don't think having it be four players is the most optimal idea. So I do think three players, having three people play it together, works really well. I never played Battletoads 2020 multiplayer, so I don't know if the characters do team attacks or stuff like that, but I do think it would be worth adding if it's not there. Because they did have the meter that you could build up and use specials from, if I remember correctly, unless I'm mixing it up with a different game, but I'm pretty sure it's there. The issue with the tongue thing, where you had multiple different buttons that basically gave you the same animation and same purpose, but for specific objects, do away with that. Like, just do away with that. One button that can do it all, but have it so that you highlight your stuff and use the button to do it. Simple. Simple. That's a simple fix to that. But one button could do all those functions with the tongue, where it can grab enemies from a distance, where it can pick up the flies for health, and use it to hit those hooks to jump back and forth through terrain in different levels. It could have done all of that. It legitimately could have done all of that, and it wouldn't have been so confusing. Oh man. But let's see. What else would I change? What else do I see a problem with? I mean, outside of watering down, removing how badly they watered it down, I honestly don't know much else I could really add at the moment. Now, if there are other people who have played Battletoads that have some other ideas that they would love to go ahead and throw in there, I am all ears and eyes for the comment section on YouTube and for responses on Anchor if anyone decides that they would like to give one. But it's just one of those things where I'm sitting here like, y'all really, really, really stepped on it. And it's just like, this game could have been a lot better. It could have had a lot more depth to it with the characters. And the story could have been more interesting than what they just threw out there. Like, and granted, I know they didn't just throw it out there, but it's like you're working within a particular franchise. You should know the rules of that franchise and the rules of the world that you're working in. So instead of working within that, they said, well, we're just going to bulldoze the crap out of that and throw it away because we don't want to work within that. We don't want that challenge to us to make a great game within the rules of the series that we're working within. Nope, we're going to wipe that out and do a whole new thing here and basically again, destroy what made this a good series and made fans of it in the first place. But I don't have anything else to really add. I think I've gone on this point long enough. So thank you guys very much for listening in. Keep your eyes and ears up for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games. Peace out, everybody.